Alright, hello everyone, it's Silver Kyle, and today I'm going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, I'm about 70 hours into the game, so I could almost do a full review of it, but I haven't beaten it yet, and there's actually still quite a few things that I still want to do before I go for the final boss, so it's going to be more my thoughts and impressions of the game. And I actually wanted to do first impressions, play it for a weekend, have like 5 or 10 hours of gameplay and talk about it, which I think would have been really cool because then we would have had one video about me praising the game and saying, this is the greatest game of all time, this is so much fun. And then about 25 hours into the game, having an update on my playthrough and being like, well, it's good, but I feel like I'm a little bit lost, overwhelmed, just, things aren't going that well. There's definitely negatives to the game. And then now 70 hours into the game where I'm kind of a combination of both. I'm still praising the game for a lot of really awesome things about it, but it does have its flaws. Now, I will probably be able to articulate my negatives to the game a lot easier because it's easier to say, I didn't like this about the game, or I felt it was missing this, or this was really, I didn't like that. Whereas saying something you liked, it's like, well, it's kind of the experience that I had with the game, and that's the reason why I like these things. So I still do have things that I can talk about for positives, but there's going to be a lot more negatives, and it's going to seem like I'm really hating on this game, but I'm not. I love this game. I would say that it's in my top 20 games of all time, possibly in my top 10, but I still need to beat it to see where it really falls in that category. So, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where do I even begin? It's a combination of Zelda, Assassin's Creed, and Skyrim. And Skyrim is my favorite game of all time, so I was really happy to see those aspects thrown into this game. And, oh man, where do you... Okay, so if you wanted to complete this game, what's cool about it, to beat it, you basically just need to complete the starting area, which would be completing 4 shrines and heading towards the final boss and killing him. And you could do that within like an hour to 2 hours, if you really know what you're doing. Or you could have a long run and get all 120 shrines, 4 dungeons, 900 Korok seeds, all the armor and all the upgrades, and then go for the final boss. Or you could go with something a little bit like me, which is to me a little bit more realistic. Never mind the 900 Korok seeds, never mind all the armor and all the upgrades for that, but getting all 120 shrines, the 4 dungeons, and then going for the final boss. I'm about 90 shrines into the game with a little over 100 Korok seeds, which those are just, if I get them, I get them, that's fine, but I'm not going for them. Whereas the shrines, that's what I'm really focusing on. I have 2 dungeons completed, so I still have 2 more dungeons, about 30 shrines, a little less than 30 shrines left to go, then I can go for the final boss. And it's really fun to see how different people play this game in the sense of, are they going to go for all the 120 shrines? Are they going to go for half of them? Are they just going to be like, I've got 50, I'm going to beeline it now for the final boss? You can have so many different ways of ending the game, like beating it, but also playing it as well. I'll get to that in a little bit because I want to talk about, first of all, a few of the negatives. Now, one of the cool things about this game, though, is that there's stamina now. I think that some people will like or dislike stamina. I, for the most part, really like it. If you take this one aspect that I'm going to talk about, I love the stamina. So basically, you can climb anything in this game. If you see a building or a mountain, a cliff, anything that's just a gigantic structure, you can probably climb it. Almost anything in this game you can climb. There's very few things other than being inside the shrines, because then it would be kind of like, well, it defeats the puzzle of it if you can just climb all the walls in there. But outside in the world, you can pretty much climb anything. And it's so much fun trying to figure out if I have enough stamina to climb this mountain. Or will I have to use my paraglider to go on to this other structure that I know I can make, and then paraglide from there, and I'll already be halfway up it, and then climb the rest of the way instead of starting from the bottom. I love that. It's basically, there's so many puzzles in this game, like the entire world itself is a puzzle. For the most part, that's positive, but there's a few things I'm going to get to that are negatives. Now, the negative about stamina is that when it rains, you can't climb anything. You can climb, but you're going to fall down. So you can make the only way to make progress is going like 4 steps of climbing, jump, and you'll fall down, but you'll have made a little bit of progress by making those extra 4 steps. It's horrible. And you'll run out of stamina and then you fall to the ground. It's horrible. And it always happens when you're halfway up this place and you're like, yes, I can almost get to the top. And then it starts raining. Or you've just found the new location that you need to go to. Like you just see a shrine or something, or you know you need to go to this place, but there's a mountain in the way. and boom, it starts raining. Well, you can't climb it anymore. You have to either wait, go around it, and maybe find some other path. But there's certain places that you can only climb certain places to get to the top. There's no regular path to go up it. It's so frustrating, and I really wish they didn't have that in this game because it is a huge negative. There's no positive to that at all. I think that anybody that plays this game hates the rain, or at least dislikes it, or at least does not see a positive to the rain. There's no positive I can see to this rain. I hate it. I wish they would take it out. Another really big negative about the game is move controls. Now, the move controls don't happen nearly as often as the rain, but sometimes in the shrines you'll have to use something like move controls to tilt like a platform. You'll have like a ball that falls down and there's like a little maze in it, and you have to figure out how to get it out and fall in a certain place. Now, I'm fine with that puzzle. I kind of like that puzzle, but I don't like doing this to do that. At the beginning, it's kind of easy. It's like, okay, I just need to do this, boom, we're done. But later on, it gets much more complicated for where you have to make the ball go. And this does not want to cooperate. If I had this, I'd be done in a certain amount of time that takes me to figure out the puzzle. And that's where I think that the main focus should be. It shouldn't be about time. Quantity versus quality. That's you want the quality of the game to be good, not the quantity. You don't care about the length of anything. And I feel that this game really has a lot of problems with that. They add the rain in, so it takes you longer to get to places because you can't do them right away. It adds this gigantic world, which is fine and dandy, but it's not a world lived in. Skyrim, my favorite game, feels like a world lived in. One of the aspects is that it's a more mature game, so it has a more realistic approach to the stylistic of the characters and the buildings. Like when you go into a town in Skyrim, it feels like it's almost really built like by an architect. In this, there's a few villages, and other than that, it's empty everywhere else. There are Korok seeds and things for you to find, and bosses and things like that, which is nice. But sometimes I just ran forever, and I felt like there was nothing really happening where I was going, the route that I decided to take. And that's really unfortunate because I want to feel like it's a world lived in. That's the whole point of an open world game, is that it feels real. Grand Theft Auto feels real. Where you go, no matter where you go in that game, I feel like it's a live city. Skyrim, the atmosphere of the outside world feels real to me. I didn't get that with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Still a very pretty game. I like the cartoon nature of the stylistic approach. Like it's a little bit like cel shaded a bit. Very beautiful in certain aspects. There's some places where I can I took pictures because you can take pictures with the Switch, and I loved what I saw, but it still didn't feel like a world lived in. So that. The move controls, the rain, those are definitely the biggest negatives to this game. Another small negative, I felt that there wasn't really a guide for where you should go sometimes. They kind of tell you where to go for the main quest and to get the 4 dungeons and the main boss. But other than that, they're kind of like, the rest is up to you. And that's cool in some aspects, but I felt that like sometimes I didn't really know where to go for like to get a shrine. Like I'm at 90 shrines now. It is so difficult to find them out in the wild now. It is like pulling teeth at this point. I look at a tower and I'm trying to find something I can't, so I have to go talk to a bunch of people in the city or town, the small villages that they have, and hopefully some of them have like a quest that I can be like, okay, there's a shrine over here that's hidden, you have to do this quest to unlock it. It's like, it's pulling teeth, and I don't really like talking to the NPCs. I could do that all day in Skyrim, but the NPCs in Legend of Zelda are not that interesting. Some of them are a little bit more than others. There's, I think his name is Rito, who's a bird who gives you quests, and whenever his music plays, I love it. And he gives you quests to unlock a shrine. That's really fun. But there's other times where I'm just like, I just talked to this person, and by chance he had a quest. Another thing is that the 900 Korok seeds, they are actually used as a currency. You can talk to this guy called Hestu, who will give you extra slots for your weapons, your bows, or your shield. So you can get more of them because weapons and shields and bows break in this game. That I'm fine with. But the thing is that I want more slots so I can get a bunch of them. And, you know, if I find a weapon, I'm just going to grab it. And instead of like being like, oh, okay, well, I can only carry like 5 weapons, so I can't pick that up. That sucks. But the thing is that you can trade in Korok seeds to Hestu, and he'll give you an extra slot. Now, the problem is that Hestu moves around, and I really just bumped into him. And if I hadn't gone through that path, I found him later on because I know I had to go to this village and you can follow a path to go to it, but I don't want to do that. That doesn't seem fun. So I flew over there and I climbed a mountain to get there because that's the way you can play the game. But that means that I missed Hestu for quite a long time. And later on, when I'm running back, and I was like, oh, that's Hestu. That's the guy that I've heard about. I was like, geez. And then he ends up saying he's going to go to one place, and he doesn't actually go there right away. So he keeps moving around, and there's no real way to figure out where he is unless you talk to him. I don't even know if there's somebody that tells you. I, once again, just was running around the world, and I saw him, and I was like, there you are, you SOB. I don't like. I like a little bit more structure. I like that having the option to play the game any way I want, but I want for certain things to be a little bit easier to find, especially things that you need. Now, that's pretty much the negatives about the game. Some of the things are the weapon breaking. I love that. I love the survivalness of it, of being, okay, I have this weapon. I'm going into a camp of 7 mob goblins, and damn it, my sword just broke. But I just whacked a mob goblin, and he flew back. He dropped his weapon. I grab it right away, and I start whacking him with it. And then I used, or I run into the camp, and I grab some of their weapons because they haven't gone to them yet. That's really fun. Or using anything in the game, seeing a rock and be like, I can use that boulder and throw it down on them. I can go in stealth like and kill the one that's watching for me. That's kind of like the scout, and then I can go in and just kill them. Or I can bomb things up. I can go guns blazing and just hack and slash all of them. I can run to them before they get to their weapons and stop them, and then they'll be defenseless. There's so many different ways to play the game, and that's so much fun. My girlfriend actually got herself a Switch and the game because she's like, I need to play this game and I need to have it myself. And it's so cool to watch her play. We'll both be playing sometimes, and I'll just pause my game and just watch her play because it's so fun to see how she plays the game, how she goes about certain puzzles in the shrines that I didn't think of. And I was like, I didn't even think of that, or that's so cool, or it's just so much fun to watch somebody else play this game that's completely different from your style. That it's an experience that you can't really explain, and it's just cool knowing that there's so many different options for the game. The battle system, excellent. I love the battle system in this game more than any Zelda game before this, and one of the best battle systems for this kind of a game, like a hack and slash, that I've had. It's just one of the best ones. That's it. It's just so much fun having these different. Most of the bosses or the monsters in the game are fairly easy, but they do get stronger each time that you kill them, which is kind of cool. Each time that they come back and they get revived, they do become stronger. So you really have to figure out. Before mob goblins, I'd be like a camp of 7. At a certain point, I'm like, yeah, these guys are no problem. But then they were like eventually becoming much more stronger. I'm like, I'll kind of avoid them. Now at the point, I'm kind of like overpowered. So even Lionels don't really make me afraid of them. Like they're probably the toughest monsters in this game. The Guardians, there's a thing that you can exploit that by mistake I did something and I was like, oh, so even with 3 hearts I could kill these Guardians no problem, and it's kind of like they're not a threat anymore. But until you find that out, yeah, they're scary as hell. I can kill them now. Like I've actually been able to just run up to them and just destroy them without using this exploitation, basically, that I don't want to get into in case you want to experience it yourself. But yeah, they're not too strong. They're not a threat anymore. Lionels are still very much a threat. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this game was hunting for certain items and the dragons in this game. The dragons, when I first saw them, I was like, what is that? It is massive and it is flying in this world. That made me feel that I was in this real, Zelda world, and this is just some mystical creature that was popping up. And I think there's 3 of them in the game. And they keep spawning because you can't really die, and they have all these defense systems, and you have to use your paraglider to get them. And hunting for them or their parts is so much fun. I really enjoyed that because I felt that was like my job. I was a dragon hunter, and I was there to get items. That was so much fun. There's just so many little things about this game that have that are so much fun that I really enjoyed. The music in this game isn't really very apparent, other than like if you're battling or there's a cutscene. Other than that, it's not really there. The storyline is it's pretty much, that's another thing too, is that I didn't feel that there was enough storyline because you have to go get memories, and finding the memories is sometimes kind of difficult because they give you pictures, but you're like, it kind of looks like the rest of the game. Sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, I could probably figure out where that is, but other times I was having a really hard time. It's just a lot of things about this game didn't give you straight answers of where to go find them. Everything's a puzzle, and it gets a little bit overwhelming and frustrating considering how big the game is and everything that you have to do in it. So that's positives and negatives for a big world like this, and I feel that there's a few things that they could have tweaked to make it a lot better. Rain being the main thing would have just made it so much more accessible for everything. But other than that, I've enjoyed my playtime so much with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild because of the little experiences that you have of going through these puzzles of shrines that are, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, sometimes 10 minutes long, so it really feels like a mini dungeon, and feeling that sense of accomplishment when I get a new shrine completed, or figuring out where a new shrine is, or getting a new tower and unlocking a new zone. There's just so many little things that just constantly keep you going. And the storyline is pretty interesting, but they don't have enough of it, I find. And having to find all the locations to unlock the storyline is like a little bit frustrating. But I really did enjoy the storyline that I've seen so far, because I haven't unlocked all the memories. I'm just kind of working on the shrines. I will get all the, I can't remember, it's like 20 memories or something like that. I will unlock all of those before I go for the final boss, because I think it'll feel a lot more accomplished and complete by the time I do that. So yeah, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, not a perfect game, but the experiences that you're going to have in a game that you could put in easily 100 hours is amazing. And if you have a Wii U, I recommend picking it up right away. Don't even wait for the Switch unless you really like Nintendo games. In that case, the Switch might be worth picking up just for this game, because there's by this point there's Splatoon 2 just around the corner, eventually Mario Odyssey later on down the year, Skyrim's coming to the system, Mario Kart 8 you could also play deluxe. There's a lot of games coming out for the Switch, and this game will hold you until the next game comes out. So Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, one of my top favorite games of all time, possibly in my top 10. Strongly recommend playing it. Just don't expect it for it to be a perfect game, but it's going to give you a completely different experience on The Legend of Zelda. Thank you all for watching. You've been Bearded In. Beardage!